Good morning, Chicago Cubs fans. We are back with another edition of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan. The GM meetings continue to roll on here in the middle of November. The press was talking to Carter Hawkins. He gave his thoughts on what the Cubs' goals were for this offseason. We're going to go over that. I'm going to share my thoughts on that as well. We're going to talk about Mackenzie Gore and the potential trade target he could be for this Chicago Cubs team. And we're going to get to some of your guys and gals' comments from earlier this week. But before we get into all that, I just want to give everyone a big thank you. Again, subscribers, viewers in general, those who share their thoughts in the comment section. You guys and gals are the absolute best. Continue to do what you are doing as we are on the road to 1K subscribers. Also, if you are new, you are enjoying the content, please just hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel, and again, share your thoughts. Even if you agree with me, disagree with me, I love hearing them both, either way. So let's hop right on into it. Hawkins has doubled down on his need for pitching. Now, what does that mean necessarily? That is a great question because when, we talk about that, him and his need for pitching, the Cubs do need pitching, right? Like, there's no doubt about that in my mind, but we also can't lose sight of the fact that we need a bat as well, because the Cubs do need these things to complete this team. Now, again, are we going to win the World Series next year? Maybe not, but we're closer than a lot of other Major League Baseball teams, and we're losing a pretty big bat in Kyle Tucker. Again, it kind of just seems like a foregone conclusion that he's not coming back anytime soon, but that's okay. That's no big deal. How will we creatively get around that? So Carter was interviewed by multiple people today, and so here we go. We're going to talk about it, and he's going to stroll on down. He makes, quote, one of my favorite things to talk about in the office with the guys is a win is a win is a win. Carter Hawkins said an offensive win is the same as a defensive win is the same as a pitching win. But if you look at our current lineup, our current depth chart, where are we most likely able to improve? It's going to be on the pitching side. That's where the most opportunity is in terms of the market, the free agent market. That's very fair. It's not what we wouldn't want. It's not that we wouldn't want to acquire an awesome position player or be active on position player market in different ways, but it's just most likely that it's going to be in the pitching space where we find things that make us better for the cost that we're looking to be paying at that time. Now, that does make sense, right, when he talks about that. There's good free agent pitchers out there, right? There's not a lot of great free agent bats. Obviously, Kyle Tucker's a free agent bat. We all know the Cubs aren't going to pay him. Kyle Schwarber, that would be a fun reunion. I'm not totally against that. He is a DH, though. And again, we all love Kyle Schwarber. Don't get me wrong. He doesn't necessarily provide us a lot of position flexibility. So that's kind of why I've been digging deeper on some of these potential trade options that Bob Nightingale mentioned earlier this week. So again, he's not wrong. They're going to be focusing on pitching. I'm guessing a lot of the Cubs free agent signings will be via pitching. If we're going to get the bat, that is going to come from trading. And that's more my point here, ladies and gentlemen, is it can't just be pitching this offseason. The Cubs need to improve the lineup. Even if you think this lineup is in a great spot, you can't expect the same things to happen like they did this season, right? Carson Kelly, for example, he will not have the same season as he did last year. How will Miguel Amaya return? We don't know the answer to those questions. And so I can't expect that same production from the catcher position. Michael Busch, call me Mr. Negative, call me whatever. Potentially, this is his best season he'll ever have. Until proven otherwise, it is his best season he will ever have. Nico Horner is going to do Nico Horner things. I'm not too worried about Nico. Dansby Swanson, I have my expectations from great defense, solid bat. Hopefully he can give us another 20 home runs. Matt Shaw, work in progress, right? But does he get better? Maybe. He might not. Ian Happ, business as usual with Mr. Happ. You know exactly what you're going to get with him. 240. Now, PCA, great question, right? Hall of Fame first half, cut by AAA second half. He struggled immensely in the second half. And, how does he adjust? How does he get better this offseason? I imagine he will. I see the love of the game for it from him. You know, I know he loves this game. I know he wants to be great, so I imagine he will get great. It just might take longer than we anticipate. And how will he react to Major League pitching this year? Since they're not going to be throwing him pitches like they were in the first half of last year. He'll never see a lot of those pitches again. He has to get good enough to force the pitchers to throw him those pitches, if you know what I'm saying. Right field's going to be Seiya Suzuki, but again, he had his career year with us last year. Will he do that again? I don't know. So this is where the Cubs need to get creative. And again, I personally believe that a lot of these career years these guys had was a byproduct of Kyle Tucker's greatness. You don't have to agree with me on Kyle Tucker being great, but he did enhance this lineup. His presence batting second or third in the lineup made everyone else around him better. So that's my point here is this is the problem if the Cubs don't get a bat. They need to get a bat to supplement this pitching that they're going after. Now, the pitching they might be going after is going to be Mr. Mackenzie Gore. What are the odds Gore are going to be dealt this year? I imagine really, really high, okay? When the Cubs were trying to trade for him at the deadline last year, he had 2.5 years of service, right? The last half of that season, essentially. And so the price tag on him was just too high. He was the main piece in that Juan Soto deal a few years ago when the Padres traded for Juan Soto from the Nationals. He was a key cog. Him, C.J. Abrams, and James Woods. That is the big three they have going on in Washington. But right now, their minor league depth just can't match that talent. And so they might be heading for a rebuild really, really soon. Is C.J. Abrams going to be available? I don't think the Cubs are going to go after him, but I'm just saying, like, is he going to be available? James Woods will not be available. That dude is a generational stud. And if he is available, mortgage the farm. James Wood is a monster, ladies and gentlemen. I would love to have James Wood on this team. But again, in regards to Mackenzie Gore, we need to find a way to add him. He has ace-tough type stuff. Can he harness it? Can he master it? That's a great question. I don't think he'll do that in Washington, though. I think he would have to come to a place like Chicago, or he goes to a LA-type team, or the Dodgers, or the Yankees. He needs to go to an infrastructure where the culture is set, where he can thrive and lead that staff. And again, he's got great swing and miss stuff, which again is a primary focus for the Cubs this year. I would consider it a win if they were able to trade for Mackenzie Gore and sign Dylan Cease. Will they do that? That's a great question. But that's a great win, right? Because if you go into next year and your staff is Cease, Mackenzie Gore, you're going to have Cade Horton, Jameson Taillon, you're going to have Matt Boyd as well, Steele returning, plus Colin Ray as the back-end option. That is a really tough pitching staff. That is going to win a lot of baseball games, and that is going to put us in a great place to potentially get the Central. But, again, we still have to go through the Brewers, right? We have to go and take it from the Brewers. So, Mackenzie Gore, I would love to add him to the team. I think he would really benefit from Wrigley Field in general, but only time will tell. Brewers are rumored to be in on Mackenzie Gore as well. They have great trade assets. And according to Bruce Levine, a lot of teams are interested in the Cubs minor league prospects. I don't know why that wasn't the case at the deadline, but who knows, right? Who knows? All right, let's get to some of your guys and gals' comments from this week. I had a few of them. Some of them are actually good questions. Some of them I just want to point out, like this one right here. We all know Jed won't do anything. Maybe raise ticket prices for a AAA team. Tim, you're better than that, man. The Cubs are not a AAA team. Just because you think we act like a AAA team, that's whatever. Jed is really good at finding creative ways to make things happen. That Michael Busch guy you love, that was via a trade. That was via a trade of 2 minor league prospects that still haven't touched the major leagues. That is a good deal. Kyle Tucker, whether you like it or not, he got Kyle Tucker to see where this team could potentially be at for this window, right? So we're not going to re-sign Kyle Tucker, but when you implement a player like Kyle Tucker and he expands that offense, he's like, oh, so once we get a Kyle Tucker type player, this team's really good and can compete in the playoffs and is 1 game away from the NLCS. That is a good question to have answered, right? It's kind of like the Falcons in football, right? They signed Kirk Cousins because they wanted to see how good Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson were. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like that. It kind of feels like that to me in that sense. And Jed doesn't control beer prices. So Tim, be better, my man. Be better. Murakami doesn't do good hitting with fastballs. Over 92, 93 feel like when he signed with a team, he'll get exposed by MLB pitching. Andrew, yes, I talked about this in a video a couple of days ago about when Murakami was posted. I didn't talk about his struggles against the fastball. I learned about it later that day, though, listening to other Cubs content creators. And yes, it's true. He struggles mightily against fastballs above 93 miles per hour. That's a problem when everyone throws 93 bare minimum. Even Kyle Hendricks in his prime hit 93 miles an hour bare minimum. So, yeah, that's not going to work out. He hit .095. .095 against fastballs above 93 miles an hour. That's just not going to cut it for you in Major League Baseball, ladies and gentlemen. So, Murakami might figure it out. He might get better. I don't know. It's alarming that he's played 8 years. I think those numbers were last year, but he hasn't gotten better in 8 seasons. That's not good. All right, going on to number 5. Rand Cali says, Joe Adell is, by stats, the worst outfielder in baseball. Rand, if you don't mind just going over that a little bit more with me, what do you mean by stats? Because, again, if you look at the counting stats when we're talking about Joe Adell, yeah, he hit 236, 37 home runs. His WAR was only 1.2 and his OPS plus was 111. That is not that strong. You're absolutely right on that front, especially given those counting numbers. So I'm guessing his fielding was a mighty struggle in that sense. Standard fielding. Let's take a look here. Yeah. A lot of negatives. I see a lot of negatives on that front. So, yeah, maybe defensively, he's not that good. I was just taking those numbers at his counting stats, right? Comparing it to another great player like Mike Trout, right? I'm just looking for a year where he hit 39 home runs, 79 RBIs. His WAR was still 9.9. Now, again, Mike Trout is an all-time baseball player, okay? Mike Trout is an all-timer baseball player. So maybe Rand Cali has some points, but if you wouldn't mind expanding upon that a little bit further for me, I would greatly appreciate it, my friend, because that's not good. But maybe the Cubs are just looking at Joe Adell as a DH. If he wants to come in and hit 37 home runs for the Cubs at Wrigley, that would lead the team. That led the team. And again, I genuinely believe this. When you're kind of playing in a different stratosphere, a different culture, better things might happen for you as a ball player. So who knows? We'll see. If the price tag is cheap, I'm cool with getting Joe Adell, especially if we need to give PCA a day off or something like that, and he's just generally a DH. I'm okay with that. But again, I don't think he's the big bat to replace Tucker and amplify this lineup. I will say that much. Okay. Getting to the final comment of this one right here. Shout out to TW. He had a couple comments, so I apologize I couldn't get to all of them, but Cubs definitely need some right-handed power arms. Agreed, my friend. Cease's stats are a mixed bag. Lots of Ks, but a lot of walks. Whip is not great, or even close to great. Guess it depends on how much you buy into the usefulness of FIP. Cubs defense is worth, half a run per game over the SDP? I hope the Cubs pick Cease up. He only costs money. Just don't expect a Skubal or Skeens because he has the Cubs defense behind him. I agree. But maybe with that Wrigley wind, his stats will kind of be a little bit lower than normal, right? Or better than normal. And again, Cease is, like you said, mixed bag. Every other year he's been good. Every other year he's struggled. In 2026, he's due to be decent. All right, he said, let's hear some Marte type trade ideas for pitching. We are going to need more than one starting arm, and Jed won't have the budget for 2 big free agents. We also need another closer type or 2. Palencia can't do it alone. Absolutely agree, TW. He can't do it alone. We need more fireballers. We got to re-sign Brad Keller, in my opinion. I know we're not going to go get Peralta. Edwin Diaz wants the same kind of contract that he wants with the Mets. We're not signing him either. I would sign a Peralta type. The guy that he opted out for the Padres. Go get him. Dude was leading the league in saves last year before they traded for the best closer in all of baseball. I would absolutely sign him. But in terms of Ketel Marte, again, it just depends on what the Diamondbacks are looking for, right? I'm not sure if Ketel Marte is going to cost a lot because he is a little bit of an older player, right? He came in 2015. He's already 32 years old. So he's a little bit older, so he might not cost as much per se. He's got a lot of money on the books comparatively for the Diamondbacks. 19 to 20 million a year for the Cubs is light work, my friend, on that one. So if I were to construct a package for Ketel Marte, this is what I would do, okay? Let me get our top prospects here. Cubs prospects. This is what I would do in regards to that. So here's our top 50 prospects, okay? Now, again, these are all, you take these with a grain of salt, okay? See, it says Tier 1, Matt Shaw, AAA, Moises Ballesteros. See, that's another option, right? But he's more of a DH. He's not really going to, amplify the roster. Cade Horton, he's already on the big league club. So here, this is where I would start for Ketel Marte, okay? James Triantos, absolutely. He was due up last year. He's going to need a place to play. Second base. Kind of gives me Nico Horner vibes. I would rather just re-sign Nico Horner. If Nico Horner is only going to cost $8, $9, $10 million a year, sign Nico Horner to a 4-year, $40 million deal and just call it a day. You know what you're getting with Nico Horner. I would give him James Triantos. I would give him Kevin Alcantara. He doesn't have a place to play in this outfield. I'm sorry. And then, yeah, I would consider Ballesteros. I would absolutely consider Ballesteros for Ketel Marte. Now, in terms of if they want a pitcher, give him Birdsell. I'm cool with giving him Birdsell. See, down here, Jackson Wiggins is Tier 4, but he's kind of jumped up the line. So when is this from? January 20th, 2025. So, again, a season happens, a guy jumps up and down the roster. So, I would kind of go along those lines there, right? Generally speaking, whenever people come up with these trade packages, they don't pan out in that capacity, They never work out in that way. So, I would start with those three guys and kind of nitpick and see where you guys are going. Triantos doesn't have a place to play. Alcantara doesn't have a place to play. You have to feel like you're giving up something because Ballesteros just can't sit on our bench, and we can't expect him to develop in that capacity. So, trade him away. Again, he's supposed to be a really good bat. I don't know if he's a part of the Kyle Tucker solution. Do I think he's a good baseball player? Yes. Do I think he has an opportunity to grow and be a good baseball player here with the Cubs? No. I do not think that. And I think that's part of the problem is we have this log jam, and a lot of those players are expiring next year, right? Ian Happ, Nico Horner, but Matt Shaw is going to be here. Dansby Swanson's going to be here. Michael Busch is going to be here. PCA is going to be here. We do need some help in the outfield potentially, but go get Ketel Marte. He can play a little left field maybe. I don't know. If you keep Owen Casey and all this, right, he'll be a right fielder eventually. There's just a lot of moves and stuff to be made, but that's kind of where I would start for Ketel Marte. Now, the Diamondbacks might spit on that idea, right? They might be like, Steven, that's a horrendous idea. But, again, I say pitch it to them and see where they take it, right? So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's edition of Cubs Daily. Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys are all the absolute best. Keep those comments coming. If there's a player you would like me to discuss in a video upcoming, I'm all open to ideas. Let's guide this channel together. So, if you guys are enjoying the content, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I don't know why you haven't yet. This channel is going places, ladies and gentlemen. So, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Maybe we'll get some fun news from the winter meetings, and I'll be back in the next one. Peace.